Well, good evening or afternoon, and welcome to this ordinary meeting of Wellington Shire Council on this, the 4th of August 2020. We'll commence then with the roll call. So here we go. Councillor Ripper.
Present, Mayor, and see and hear. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor McCubbin.
Yes, I can see and hear. Thank you.
Councillor Stevens.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm present and can hear and see everyone.
Councillor Rossetti.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm here and I can hear you and see others.
Councillor Crosley.
Yes, the same. I can hear you, see you. Thank you.
Councillor Hole.
Yes, I'm here and can see and hear as well, Mayor.
I think you're breaking up, but we'll take that as a yes. You're in. Councillor Bye.
Yes, Mayor, I'm here and can hear and see you.
And Councillor Ma, welcome back.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I can hear and see you.
Okay, let's get on with it. So, as the COVID-19 social distancing requirements continue to remain in place, the Minister for Local Government has issued the Minister's Good Practice Guidelines MGPG1 virtual meetings pursuant to Section 87 of the Local Government Act 2020. These guidelines ensure that local government decision-making can continue in line with COVID-19 requirements, and further details can be found on the Local Government Victoria website. These guidelines took effect on the 1st of May 2020 and will remain in place through to the 1st of November 2020. While members of the public can no longer attend meetings in person, we have provided options for you to interact with us virtually via our council meeting page on the Wellington Shire Council website. You are able to interact with council in two ways. You should have emailed through a specific question or comment relating to a particular council agenda item by no later than 1 p.m. on the day of the meeting, or for general communication with council via the webcasting chat room early in the meeting to ensure that your submissions can be dealt with at the end of the meeting. While we face a new way of gathering, we thank you for your continued support and look forward to a new way of keeping in touch with all of Wellington Shire. And we might move on to the statement of acknowledgement and prayer, and in these circumstances there is no need to stand. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gunai-Kurnai people, and pay respects to their elders past and present. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon the Wellington Shire Council, its councillors, officers, staff and their families. We pray for your guidance in our decisions so that the true good of the Wellington Shire Council may result to the benefit of all residents and community groups. Amen. No apologies, CEO?
None, Mayor.
Moving on to item A3, declarations of conflict of interest.
Yes, Mayor, Councillor Bye has a conflict with item C4.1, a direct conflict.
Thanks, Councillor Bye. I'll remember to note that before we move on to that item a bit later on. Moving on to item A4, confirmation of minutes of the previous council meeting. Councillor Bye.
Thanks, Mayor. I move that Council adopt the minutes and resolutions of the ordinary council meeting of the 21st of July 2020.
Is there a seconder for that motion?
Yes.
Councillor Ma. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Bye, move on.
Yep, all good.
Thank you. There's no business arising from the previous meeting, CEO?
None, Mayor.
No late items?
None, Mayor.
No notices of motion. Moving on to item A81, there are no outstanding petitions. So moving on to item A82, receipt of petition request for Gormandale bike track / pump track. Councillor Stevens?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. In accordance with our standard operating procedure, I will move that Council receive the attached petition from residents in Gormandale and surrounding areas in relation to a request for a pump track / bike path in Gormandale.
That's seconded by Councillor Ma.
Yes, I'm happy to second that.
Thank you, Councillor Ma. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Stevens, I wish to speak to that.
Well, no, I mean just to reiterate the fact that we will now await the officers to consider the petition, and we'll hear from it within 2 meetings, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item A83, receipt of petition request to seal commercial street in Yarram. Councillor Stevens?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, again, I would like to move that Council received the attached petition in relation to a report from residents to seal Commercial Street in Yarram.
And I'm happy to second that, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Ma. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Stevens?
Yes, well, again, Mr Mayor, we will just wait for our standard procedure to hear a report from officers, but I'd just like to comment it's pleasing to see that the residents there seem to be pretty much generally agreed that they'd like to see this work undertaken. So we'll see what the officers' report says. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Stephen. I don't believe we have any invited addresses, presentations or acknowledgements for this meeting. No questions on notice, CEO.
None, Mayor.
We move on to item B, Report of Delegates. I understand, Councillor Hull, you have delegates' reports for us today?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Just two short ones. Early July, the annual meeting of the Timber Towns Victoria was conducted. And the executive was spread right around the state. I wasn't invited to or nominated to be on the executive, but I couldn't commit the time. So Councillor Dick Ellis from East Gippsland is the Gippsland nomination. At that meeting, the Timber Towns Victoria website was launched, and it's well worth a visit. And a request has gone out to councils and state government, local government authorities for permission to link in. And I'd like to say that Timber Towns Victoria is a member of our Native Timber Task Force. And the other report is the Gippsland Regional meeting last Friday. It covered many aspects of resources that are available for MAV membership. The items covered included procurement and the ability for councils to cut costs on purchasing, insurance, and the mutual liability insurance now has all 79 councils in it, and it's been only 72 for a long time. And with the insurance market getting harder and tougher and tighter, so and the benefits of protection getting less and less, suddenly everybody jumped on board. And that also includes all Tasmanian local government authorities as well. And with the work care, everybody would have seen the write-up of some misadventures with work care authorities and agents that have received considerable media attention, and it was, I'm sure, going to attract some legal attention. And so the work care protection for councils that is given by the MAV as a self-run organisation is also starting to attract new members. The looming council elections and the new method of registering, training and commitment was handled in depth. And the interesting thing is that we all look at changes, and no sooner you settle into a mode for potential candidates to nominate, and then the odd piece gets changed. So we'll look, watch that with interest for about the next 2 or 3 weeks. The six councillors there gave their reports, and the loss of jobs and the uncertainty of the time was a concern. For each Gippsland, they also have the recovery from the fires to cope with, and the virus, the lack of fires, the cause of the fires and the effect of it has made it a very hard time for our good friends and neighbours to the east. So that's reports, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Hall, and grateful to acknowledge that the President of Timber Towns Victoria, Councillor Stevens from memory, our Councillor Stevens, is on that task force and has already made a valuable contribution to its deliberations already. So we thank you, Councillor Hall. If we move on to item C 1.1, Council's response to COVID-19 and municipal recovery update. Yeah. Councillor Crosley.
Councillor, thank you, Mayor. I move that Council's response to COVID-19 and municipal recovery update be noted.
Seconded, Councillor McCubbin.
Yes, indeed.
Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried, and given the gravity of this matter and its importance, I'm quite happy to see that we, in fact, that councillors, as they see fit, can participate in this discussion. Councillor Crosley.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sure this is of great interest to the community, and as Councillor Hall referred to, it's an ever-changing space, and we have to, and our community have to respond to this. Under the Emergency Management Act, the council has to work with the, in a pandemic, council staff have to work with local medical support and health and wellbeing services to ensure that our community can access appropriate services. And it's with that Wellington Shire has recently received funding from the Department of Health and Human Services to operate a COVID-19 community activation and social isolation program, starting from basically now until December. This program offers practical and emotional support for our community during this isolation in COVID-19. Now, the community can access this service and be directed to the right services for their needs through our local friendly staff on the Call the Wellington COVID-19 Relief Information Line, which is a 1300 number, 137218, and that's on Monday to Friday 9 to 4:30, and that information can be accessed from the Wellington front page on the website. There's also the COVID hotline on the 1800 675 398, and that if people select the transfer to the CASI, which is the Community Activation and Social Isolation Program, they will be followed up, and so they can look at those services. Council has also been working to develop a Wellington Municipal COVID Recovery Committee, and that's going to have all the sectors represented, both health and the business sector. As we know, this is a double whammy, both in a health and social issue, as well as a big hit to our economy and businesses. So we're very pleased to be working towards that and developing a recovery plan. And it was very pleasing that we had a great response to the survey to get the community's input on their priorities in this recovery plan. It is a bit one step forward and two steps back. So some of those areas that we're initially looking at to open up and promote business, we've had to put on hold, but certainly we'll be planning both in that economic and social area to be ready to roll when we can actually get and activate and have visitors and have more activity. The areas that have been successful with the economic push is the Wellington Still Delivers Facebook page, Be Kind to Wellington, and also on that area was with the implementation of having to wear masks, that there's been buy your masks, reusable masks locally. So the community have responded well to those initiatives, but it's worth noting that because of the re-implementation of the Stage 3 COVID-19 response, that there's a number of our facilities that were open that are going to have to close again, and I'll just whip through a few. So direct person-to-person customer service in Sale and Yarram will have to close. Our Aqua Energy, GRSC, indoor and outdoor facilities, Port of Sale, all our library branches, the Wedge, playgrounds, caravan parks, RV parks, and outdoor gym equipment. So really part of our enjoyment of our facilities is back in lockdown, unfortunately. And certainly we recognise this big challenge to our community, our school communities, especially our Year 12s, the business sector, first responders, the health and social services provision. And it's a big challenge, and we acknowledge that. But we also encourage our community to really follow the rules, to make sure that you get tested if you have any symptoms. If you get tested, wait at home till you get the results. Follow all the instructions of being social distancing. And it was very pleasing when I had to dash out to get some provisions yesterday that everybody I saw in the streets were wearing their masks and behaving very well. So I think our community has really responded well. I'm sure many of us are feeling despondent about the setback, but we tackled it well, and we're still COVID-free here, and we want to keep it that way. We have to work together to make sure that we come out of this, and this program that we're setting in place, this plan will hope to be able to kick off and fire off and support our community, both in the economic sense, the recovery, and also in a health recovery. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Crossley. And Councillor McCubbin, do you want to speak to this now, or would you like to reserve your right and let some others have speak, and you might bring this thing home?
Yes, I'm comfortable with that. Yes, indeed. Thank you.
So any other councillors wish to speak to this this matter?
Councillor Ripper will.
Yes, Councillor Ripper.
I'd just like to let everyone know that this is now the new norm. When you leave home, you don't only look and pick up your mobile phone, you pick up your mask when you leave home. You continue to have your mobile phone with you and your mask. Wherever you go, you wear your mask. And make it fun. Look at different colours of masks. Look at different designs of masks. Don't have a negative. This is a positive. And take on board absolutely what Councillor Crossley has mentioned. This is the new norm. We do not want to get complacent in Wellington Shire. Look out for your neighbours. Give people a smile, even with your mask on. G'day, how are you? And let's try and encourage everyone. Now, our staff, as Councillor Crossley has mentioned, in emergency management group, they have worked tirelessly with bushfires and with floods. We cannot see COVID-19. It is invisible. It could be anywhere. We can't see it. So we're all dealing with a new pandemic, never seen before. So let's all work together as much as we can and just do little things, make a big difference to people around. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ripper. Anyone else wish to speak to this? If not, before I hand over to Councillor McCubbin, I'll just make a couple of very brief observations. I did some media yesterday following the announcements of the changes to restrictions as they impact on us, and it was clear that, in fact, I think the message they were looking to get from me was the one to say, well, gee, we're okay out here in the regions, we don't need this. Well, quite simply, they didn't get that message from me. If the advice is that we, in fact, need to take every precaution necessary to protect our community, that's a position that I would gladly endorse. And not long after doing that, complete with masks, so you could only see my smiling eyes, I visited a supermarket, and to be interrupted by someone who said thank you. Had seen the report in the Gippy Times last week before masks had become mandatory in Victoria, and she said to me, I saw the report in the paper and I've been wearing a mask ever since. So it means that I got to one, and I think it behoves all of us to put that message out there. I know that hackneyed expression, we're all in this together, but quite simply, we might be safe, but we so need to stay safe down here. And if by following every direction we get is the way we do it, so be it. So think about our obligations from one to another. This is about social responsibility and caring. You know, one more patient in ICU is one more too many, and we do not need to see them in Wellington. So I would plead to everyone in our community, take this seriously, because it may well be your mum, your dad, your partner, your child, someone you love who becomes infected. And I know for me, it would be the saddest thing in my life to in fact think that I was responsible for the demise of someone's well-being. So please take it seriously. Councillor McCubbin, I'll leave it in your hands.
Look, I think it's already been said, Mr Mayor, and thank you very much for your words, as well as Councillor Ripper and Councillor Crosley. Just a couple of things. I'm fortunate enough to be on the board of the Sale Elderly Citizens Village, and it's particularly in those aged care homes at which we are at the cutting edge of this terrible pandemic. I know that at Sale Elderly Citizens Village, they've had a number of changes to the way they operate. It's very saddening to them to be able to be in lockdown, but they completely understand, them and the staff, who are completely in hazard gear, as they should be. And they are really at the cutting edge of this awful pandemic. Particularly those people in palliative care at this stage. It is very, very, very hard thing to have your elderly relatives going through the last stages of your life and you can't have your relatives there. But that's what this means. And I think if we all do the right thing, we can move beyond that and we can open up again. I was very pleased to see yesterday that I went to the Cameron Sporting Complex, and I know the gym mums were moving the gear from one room to the other, these huge heavy floorboards, gym equipment, bulk tables, and each and every one of the mums had the mask on as they were shifting things. And really they do that because we all realise that we're all in this together and we're all working hard to ensure we can come out outside as quickly as we can. So our thoughts and prayers are with all of those going through it, and thank you very much, Mayor, for your words. Very good.
Thanks, Councillor. Thanks, Councillor McCubbin. We might move on to item C2.1, Assembly of Councillors. Councillor Bye.
Thanks, Mayor. I move the Council note to receive the attached Assembly of Council records for the period 13th of July 2020 to the 26th of July 2020.
Understand you're seconding that, Councillor Marr?
I'm happy to second that. Thank you, Mayor.
Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Bye?
No, nothing there.
Thank you. Moving on to item C3.1, the May 2020 planning decisions. Councillor Marr?
I move that Council note the report on recent planning permit trends and planning application determinations between the 1st of May and 31st of May 2020.
Happy to second that, Mayor.
Quicker than I was. Thanks, Councillor Bye. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Marr.
43 planning permits for the month of May, which is pretty good considering the environment to which we are in. I'd like to commend the Planning Department for their stellar work over the past challenging months in a COVID world. And I want to recognise the importance of planning to our Shire, especially moving forward into the future. Our planners have once again proven that they have provided strong results with their guiding light for many that are probably now looking for somewhere to move, to set up shop and to embrace a lifestyle that only regional areas can offer. And it's quite somewhat surprising that suddenly regional Victoria is becoming popular. And let's be honest, the construction industry is what many are probably hoping will steady the ship to get us through these COVID days on an economical sense. It's our planning department and the work that they are doing right now that will enable this activity to support us economically into the future. Our Shire has recently seen strong land and property sales of late, and I'm sure that there is some envy from those businesses and warehousing in Melbourne Metro area that probably wish that they had made regional Victoria and definitely Wellington as the place and choice of their location to operate. So going forward, I'd just like to say to Brent, Josh and Barry and their teams, well done on the work that you have contributed to the Shire thus far. And I look forward to seeing the continuation of the good work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Marr. Before we move on to item C4.1, Councillor Bye, I think this is where you take your leave.
Yes, Mayor, I'd just like to declare a conflict, 7.7b, a direct conflict, and I'll leave the meeting.
Thanks, Councillor Bye. We will wait for that to happen, which looks like he's exactly done that. And so we will move on to item C4.1, road discontinuance and sale, the rear 72 to 74 Patten Street sale. Councillor Rossetti.
Thanks, Mayor. I move that 1, pursuant to sections 189 and 206(1), including clause 3 of Schedule 10 and section 223 of the Local Government Act 1989, Council resolves to advertise its intention to discontinue and to sell a section of Council Road at the rear of 72 to 74 Patten Street sale, and 2, Council place a notice of the proposed discontinuance and sale of a section of Council Road at the rear of 72 to 74 Patten Street sale in a local newspaper and serve a copy of the notice on abutting property owners and statutory authorities. And 3, Council appoints 3 councillors plus an alternate representative, namely Councillors McCubbin, Crosley and Rossetti, and the alternate being Councillor Hall, to form the Road Discontinuance Committee that is established by Council under section 2231B1 of the Act to consider written submissions, objections and to hear any persons who in their written submission under section 223 of the Act have been requested that they be heard in support of their submission or objection. And 4, in the event of no objections, Council resolves to discontinue a section of Council Road at the rear of 72 to 74 Patten Street sale and place a notice in the Victorian Government Gazette. And 5, Council authorise the Chief Executive Officer to sell the discontinued section of road to the abutting property owner in accordance with Wellington Council Policy 3.3.5, sale, exchange and acquisition of land.
Thanks, Councillor. Does anyone understand you'll second that, Councillor McCubbin?
Indeed so.
Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Rossetti?
Thank you, Mayor. The location of this land, this road, Mayor, is at the back of the Ben Acre store, as many of us know it, and it's been used primarily for receiving and handling the goods for that supermarket. Indeed, there's been significant work done by the supermarket to upgrade that for delivery trucks and such things. I know it's a very well supported supermarket up there, and it's great to see one in the suburbs, so to speak, that people use well. So this would enable them really just to buy that land, presuming that that gets through, and then continue to do the improvements they need to keep that working for their business. The process here is inviting those who actually have objections to this to come forward, and if they do, then they'll be heard by that committee or that committee in the alternate. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Rossetti. Councillor McCubbin, do you wish to speak to that?
No, I'm fine. Thank you very much, Mayor. Very fine.
Thanks, Councillor McCubbin. Moving on to item C5.
Sorry, Mayor. I've just invited. We can just.
Oh, we're going to wait till Councillor Biden come back. Sorry.
I've just sent him a message inviting him back into the meeting. So if we can just wait for a few seconds for Councillor Biden to rejoin us.
Otherwise, I'll have been finished before he got back. So just wait for a moment or two.
It looks like he's here now, Mayor.
Councillor By's back.
Yeah, I'm back.
Thanks, Councillor Bye. Moving on to item C5.1, Newry Recreation Reserve Committee of Management minutes. Councillor Hole?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'm going to move the Council receive the minutes of the Newry Recreation Reserve Committee of Management's annual general meeting and the general meeting held on the 1st of June 2020.
Understand you'd like to second that, Councillor Ripper?
Thank you. I will second that. Thank you, Mayor.
Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Hole?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. This is a building that we've got in the Shire that needs some urgent attention in relation to eradication of white ants who have eaten their way up the floor in the kitchen. And the only thing that's holding the place together is the lino that sits on top of what used to be stumps and floorboards. The issue that I've been raising with this committee, and it's a very active committee and very passionate, of course, from Newry, is the fact that we need to get more bodies or organisations involved in utilising the facilities if there's any upgrade. Currently, the Newry Golf Club is interested in shifting from their side and would love to talk. And I also started the wheel talk rolling with the Maffra Newry Motorbike Club. They haven't been quite as enthusiastic, but down the track, who knows? One of the other issues we have with that reserve is that they have the junior netball played out there, but they don't have female changing facilities. So I think it's something we're going to have to put on our list. I did have the health department go out and have a look and go over the place. It needs a bit of modernisation, but overall the food handling facilities aren't too bad. But there are some infrastructure problems that need to be looked at fairly urgently.
Thanks, Councillor Hall. If we move on to item C5.2, Briagolong Recreation Reserve Committee of Management minutes. Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that Council receive the minutes of the Briagolong Recreation Reserve Committee of Management's general meeting held on the 8th of June 2020.
Understand you'll second that, Councillor Hall?
Oh, I wouldn't dare be saying no.
We're just working off the script here. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. We're working through some final stages of some traffic control and some works on the Pony Club area out at the Briagolong Rec Reserve. This will be finalised soon, and we'll be able to move forward to see, as they say, we'll be shovel ready for this to commence and to make it a better place for both the users and all the other users at the Rec Reserve.
That's it. Thanks, Councillor Ripper. And we move on to item C5.3, Maffra Recreation Reserve Committee of Management minutes. And again, I think we're on your hands, Councillor Ripper.
Yes, you are in my hands. And moving along, and here we've just arrived. Yes, we've just arrived at the Maffra Recreation Reserve. I would like to move that Council receive the minutes of the Maffra Recreation Reserve Committee of Management's general meetings held on 2 March 2020 and 1 June 2020.
Thanks, Councillor Ripper. I understand you'll second that, Councillor Hall?
Yes, Mayor, I'll second that.
That motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Ripper.
Also, works haven't commenced, but the planning stages of a rather large all-weather dome is going to be constructed with a grant received by the Agricultural Department at the Maffra Rec Reserve. So they're moving forward with that and moving forward with other ideas for the area too. So whilst we are, and since March, under COVID conditions, we still have these two, the previous Rec Reserve, Briagolong and Maffra, moving forward to when we're out of COVID, we will have some new works at both those areas. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ripper. Moving on to item C5.4, Gordon Street Recreation Reserve Committee of Management minutes. Councillor Hall?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'll move the Council receive the minutes of the Gordon Street Recreation Reserve Committee of Management's general meeting held on the 22nd of June 2020.
Understand you'd like to second that?
I would like to second that motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Hall?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. This is, I think, from memory, the first Zoom meeting for this particular committee. And like all first timers, there was a matter of trial and error, but it worked out pretty well. Whilst there's no senior football, no senior netball, and also no junior netball, there has been junior football, and the oval's been used for up to 4 games on a Sunday up until this weekend, and there won't be any more football for the year. So the maintenance of the ground has had to continue. The ovals had to be mowed. The couple of little bit of exciting bits of news that's come to the committee's attention is that the entranceway of Gordon Street, which is seriously potholed, and I'm sure there's probably a couple of camel trains stuck down there somewhere in those potholes, that the funding has come through, and that'll be dealt with in February, March in the road shooting program. And the Historic Engine Society have received a grant of $20,000 to start erecting their shed, and instead of having to pay out a lot of money each year for the for the rental on a marquee. So the good work of this committee continues.
Thanks, Councillor Holm. No urgent business, CEO?
None, Mayor. And nothing in the chat room either, Mayor.
Thank you very much. In the absence of anyone requiring the need to move into closed session, I'll take silence to indicate no one needs to move into closed session for leave or any other matters. On